All right, so today we're going to build a Johnson Su reactor. We'll start with a pallet. We'll take this template that I made here. Basically, it fits over the pallet, square. Make sure it's all on there good. Use some high visibility paint and mark the holes. That way you know where to cut for the tubes to go in. To allow air to travel through the compost. Just use that to locate where our holes are going to be. If you find something that works better, that's fine. This works good for me. So we've got our stuff marked. Lift it off. We know where to cut. Okay, so now we're gonna go through the process of removing the material where we've marked out with our paint. I like to use this air keyhole saw. And basically I'm gonna do one before the compressor comes back on, but it's the same for all the holes. So here we go. Be sure to use eye protection, protect your eyes. PP is very important. All right, here we go. And that's it. We'll just repeat this same step for all the holes, and we'll come back when we got them all cut. Okay, so now that I've got my 6 holes cut, I like to go ahead and test fit the pipe just to be sure that maybe I didn't make a wrong cut or didn't clear something enough. So I'll just take my pipe and just double check that my holes are the right size. That way I don't get further along in the process and find out that I've done something wrong and wind up having to disassemble it because I didn't check. Okay, so now we've got our holes done in the pallet. The next thing we're gonna do is create a base for the compost to sit on as it's breaking down. This pallet measures about 43. Both ways is 43 squared. What I'm gonna do is cut this about 48, so to give me plenty of room to pull down and staple into the pallet on both sides. So I'll start by making a cut right here. 48. And my cloth is a little bit funky here. Work around that. It's right there. And this does have to be precise because we're going to trim it a little bit off in the end. Okay. So now we're going to cut this piece off. Now we'll put the piece on the pallet and kind of square it to the pallet. What we'll do is we'll staple one side, pull the other side tight, staple that side. Pull this side tight, staple this side, and keep working around so we create a nice tight cover for this thing. I just want to double check you got plenty of access on both sides. And then we'll use our staple gun here. And we'll just pop a couple of staples. So now we've got the landscaping material stapled on top of the pallet here. I'm going to use this soldering gun with the knife on it to cut the excess back. And the reason I like using the soldering gun at this point versus the scissors is because it cauterizes. That way it doesn't fray or pull or tear as easy once they're all said and done. Finish going this way with it. It's a little bit slower than using a knife or scissors, but the end result's way better. Okay, so basically we're just removing this material from over top of the hole like we spoke earlier. And the way I do, I just kind of push down and I feel for my points. Hold the trigger down on the gun until it starts to smoke. That way you know it's getting good and hot. And I just kind of cut it to my holes. This is not an exact science. If you cut a little bit big, it's no big deal. We found out by doing so many that it's not going to really affect it negatively. So what I also like to do is take and cut these reliefs out on the edge where the forks go in. That way you don't accidentally pierce the material or damage the material while you're moving it around on the forks. So we just kind of just cut it up right there. I do it all around because we don't know which way it's going to sit. We'll show this here. We don't know which way it's going to sit once it's installed up there, so I do every side. Okay, for this portion of the job, we're going to be cutting the concrete reinforcement wire here. This stuff is, it wants to stay in a coil, so it's good to have eye protection, hand protection, just to safeguard yourself because it wants to coil and kind of go crazy. So what we're going to have is 23 upright bars, and we'll cut it just in front of the 24th. So have us a tail to be able to tie it back on itself, to hold it itself in a circle. We're going to go ahead and make the cut. And right now, Larry's standing on the end of it. What I've done in the past is use the mini machine or the Bobcat to hold the wire in place to keep it from doing that. So that's it. All right, so I've already started attaching the end together. Basically what I'll do is kind of butt the ends together. No real exact science to this. Let's see. You do need to keep the wire on the same side. So if your tail is on the bottom here and you stay on the bottom all the way consistent, that way it will be it'll kind of all line up in the end. So what I'm going to do is just bend it around the end twice, just like that, and kind of just bring the tail down. I'm going to go around it once, twice, bring the tail down. I'm going to do that the whole rest of the way here. And then once I get done, bending these around and attaching the two ends together. Then I'm gonna come and just kind of bend this around a little bit at a time to make a big circle, and so it'll kind of relax and take shape of what I'm trying to make here. 1, 2, down. Yeah, like I said, a good pair of gloves. These are a little bit thicker, which is good. All these sharp ends, you want to definitely protect yourself. It's good to know where you're at on the tetanus shot also. So now I got it wired all the way down. I'm gonna kind of work this around. And it takes a while to get it right. You gotta kind of keep working it. Top to bottom. Before it really works. Keep the shape you're looking for. We'll take another. Just walk around trying to work out hard curves, make them softer, so this thing will kind of hold the shape we're looking for, which is the larger circle. There again, no exact science. You're just kind of just working little by little. This is kind of tedious, but when it's all said and done, it definitely definitely looks a lot better, and the more cylindrical it is, the better it is to transport, so it's not leaning to one side or the other. That we've learned from building and filling some of them to this point. So the next thing we're going to do is cut the landscaping fabric long enough to go inside this and line it out, and we'll see you there. All right, so at this point we're going to cut our landscaping fabric 12 foot. That's going to give us about a foot of overlap. That way we don't have to worry about stuff spilling out the side. No exact science, this isn't perfect. Just want to give yourself grace so you don't come up short in the end. So 12 foot right here. There we go. That's our piece for dinner. Okay, so we got our fabric cut, and I kind of coiled it up and laid it in here so that it's kind of going in the right direction. What we're going to do for spacing is take the fabric and go down to the second metal rod right here, and then push it over top of these little tails. And what that'll do is it'll keep it what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of square. It'll keep the fabric square to the cylinder. That way it won't come out all wonky once we get to the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'll do all the top, and then we'll come back and then we'll flip it over, and I'll show you doing the bottom. So basically just like that. Just pull it in there. Pull it kind of tight this way and that way. And just Pull it down on there. And then we're going to do that all the way around. Work our slack out. Okay, so we got the one end all the way done, completely around. And basically, to start off on the other end, I've just pulled my cut kind of straight, parallel with my upright here. And basically what you do is just try to pull as much slack out of it as you can, and then pull it back over this little tit right here, and zip tie it in. So now what I'm going to do is going to go all the way around. The same thing. If you watch the material as you do it, you can pull it too tight or too loose, but you'll see the material kind of pull or relax. So we'll just kind of do it consistently all the way around. And when we come back and stop, we'll be ready to put the cylinder on the pallet. Yep, little snippety snip. Okay, so at this point in the process, we've got the landscaping fabric covering our cylinder, zip tied top and bottom. And right now we just set it on top of our pallet. You can see there's little kind of tits, so to speak, sticking out. What we're going to do with that is kind of line it up, starting with the middle and press it in. And we're going to go around to make sure that the cylinder is in the center of the pallet all the way around. Once we got it pushed into the material, I'm basically going to take this heat gun and just go through the fabric in different places, and we're going to zip tie the cylinder through the mesh, through the material top and bottom to the pallet, and that's all it is to it. So we'll get it centered up, and then I'll show you the process of getting started putting the zip ties in. Okay, so we've got the cylinder evenly spaced on the pallet. I've already started putting zip ties in between the bottom ring and the pallet. So what I'm doing here is I'm letting the soldering iron get warm, and I can feel around and find ribs in the pallet. And what I'm doing is just burn a hole through the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to take my zip tie, go through the top, fish it through the bottom, like so. Zip tie it down. There are occurrences where I've gone through and one of these little tits has landed on a hard piece of plastic. And what it does, it causes it to stand up and not be able to pull down. And the thing to do is to let the heat gun get really good and hot. And I don't have one like that right now, but you'll basically put the soldering iron into the plastic at the bottom of the tit. And once it starts going down, you can push down on the plastic and you'll feel the tit penetrate through the pallet, and then it'll sit flat. At that point, then you can just hold it down and then move around and add zip ties so it'll stay down. So we can also just, since we got the soldering here in our hand, we'll just burn that off like that. And that's about it. We're gonna go around and evenly cover this with zip ties. And then it'll be a finished product.